Carrots and eggs and bunnies, oh my! I love decorating for Easter, and I love making projects that are budget friendly. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Jess, and I love making home decor on a budget, and if you do too, then let's get started. I saw these galvanized Easter buckets at the Dollar Tree, and I knew as soon as I saw them that I wanted to use them as my base for an egg topiary. So I grabbed this little bucket that has this cute little bunny gnome on it, and I have this Easter decoration, and I can't remember if I got it this year at the Dollar Tree or last year, but they always have similar things. And I'm also going to use a few dowel rods. If you have one long dowel rod, use that, but I only had two short ones, so I knew I was going to have to attach them together. I started by taking the eggs off of the ribbon hanger that they came on, and normally I'm not a huge fan of glitter, but I decided for Easter, with all the fun colors, the glitter looked really nice. So I decided to keep the work simple and just use the designs that already came on the eggs. If you have one long dowel rod, you could just cut it to the size you need for your egg topiary, but because I only had two short ones, I decided to add some hot glue to one end, and then to make sure that it was really secure, I just wrapped where the seam is of the two dowel rods with some Scotch tape. I flipped my eggs over and laid them out kind of staggered, a little bit of a zigzag pattern, and then I just used some hot glue to attach all of the eggs together. I needed an even surface on the back of the eggs to be able to attach my dowel rod, so I'm using some craft sticks, and I just stacked two of them up for the eggs that are on the bottom, and then that way that kind of bridged the gap between the eggs that were on the top and the eggs on the bottom, and it gave me a nice flat surface to attach my dowel rod. Now I could just hot glue my dowel rod right along the back side of the eggs and the craft sticks. And then just to make it look a little neater, I took a piece of burlap ribbon and I hot glued that on top of the dowel rod. That way it kind of covered up those craft sticks, and it also gave it more of a finished look. And the ribbon actually acted as extra security to make sure that everything stayed together. Before I start decorating my eggs, I wanted to make sure that my dowel rod was the right length, so I laid my bucket down and I used a pencil to mark where I need to cut it. You can do this with a saw, but I have these miter shears that work really well for cutting through dowel rods, and I always have those linked in the description box below. Now for the fun part, time to decorate the eggs. I started with a pink gingham ribbon that I tied into a bow, and I added that to the top. And then, I don't know about you, but I have this bag of scrap pieces of floral and greenery that I keep on hand for smaller projects like this. So I dug through my bag of greenery and I picked out a few pieces and a few little flowers that I had left over from other things. And I just kind of started going to town. There's no rhyme or reason, just glue things on till you think it looks good, or you could keep it plain also and make this a really quick craft. But I decided to add a few little leaves and flowers, and then I ended up adding another bow on another one of the eggs. And I did keep my dowel rod natural looking. I didn't paint it or anything because I wasn't going to show too much of it, but if that's something that bothers you, you could always paint it or stain it to whatever color you like. Another way you could change this to fit your style is you could always flip these eggs over and paint on the back side of them your favorite colors or put your favorite designs on, or you could even add some letters to spell out the word home or something like that, something related to Easter. There's a lot of different ways that you can customize this, but I decided to keep everything pretty simple because I wanted this to be a pretty quick craft. To finish off my topiary, I put some floral foam in the bucket and then I covered the top with floral moss. Now, I did this kind of backwards just because of the way my camera angle is. You couldn't really see the whole topiary from this overhead shot. So what I would recommend is, if you're going to do this at home, add some hot glue to the bottom of your dowel and stick it in the floral foam first, and then add the floral moss around it. It'll make it a lot easier. really excited to tell you that today's video is a part of an Easter collab with some really amazing creators. This collab is hosted by my friend Leanna over at Leanna DIY. So after you're done watching my video, make sure you go to the description box and there'll be a link to a playlist and you can go watch everyone else's videos for some Easter crafting inspiration. A few weeks ago, I made a nautical rope bunny that I turned into a garland, and so this time I decided to make the same bunny out of nautical rope but turn it into a box art sign. So the nautical rope that I use is not from the Dollar Tree, it's actually from Amazon, and I'll try to make sure that that's linked in the description box, but you definitely could use the nautical rope from the Dollar Tree also. And this box art I picked up at the Dollar Tree too. You could pick up any kind of frame or piece of box art that you can find. I just liked this one because it already had a white frame on it. I popped out the piece that was in the middle and then I gave it 2 coats of the plaster color by Waverly. I wasn't too worried if that design covered up the whole way because I knew that I would be covering it up with something else anyway. I just wanted to make sure you couldn't see any of the super dark parts of that design through the paint. I took these giant craft sticks that I get at Walmart and I cut them down to size to fit inside of my box art. So I cut one and you can see I did a test fit to make sure that it would fit inside of there. And at first I cut 6 sticks, but then I end up only using 5 of them. But depending on what type of frame or piece of box that you use, you'll have to just use your judgment to see how many sticks you might need. The 3 colors I chose for my sticks are the agave, the ballet slipper, and the maze, all by Waverly. But again, this is where you can kind of customize it to fit your style. If you want, you could do everything just neutral, maybe in grays and whites, or you could go kind of modern and paint it black. I think that would look really cool too. And like I said, I originally cut 6 sticks, so I had painted 2 of each color, but I ended up only using 5, and I'll show you what I did with the 5 sticks a little bit later. After all my sticks were dry, I went back through with the plaster color again and I did a dry brushing on all of the sticks to give them that whitewash look. But again, this is optional. If you don't like the distressing, you could leave them plain. Now I could get started on my nautical rope bunny, so I started with my rope and I folded just the tip of it over with a little hot glue to get it started. And this is where a silicone mat really comes in handy because the hot glue won't stick to the mat. And as you're wrapping it around, because it is a little small, you want to make sure that you add hot glue to every area that you're wrapping. So you don't want to leave any gaps where there isn't any hot glue. And this does take a little time, but it goes pretty quickly. You just have to make sure that you keep gluing and wrapping until you get the size of circle that you like. Once my circle was the size that I wanted, I could cut off the excess and hot glue the ends down. And another tip is this is a great way to make a simple set of coasters. Also, you could just keep spiral wrapping nautical rope and make a little set of coasters. I would recommend putting a piece of cork or a piece of felt on the backside. The ears of the bunny are really simple to make also. I just folded the nautical rope over and glued the tip onto itself to make a teardrop shape, and then using that same technique I just wrapped the rope around the outside of the ear once. So there's just 2 layers of nautical rope on each ear, which left a hollow opening in the ear, which I think is really cute. I glued both ears onto the back side of the bunny, and then to make it easier to glue to the inside of the box, I added 2 pieces of craft stick just to make sure that it was even enough to glue on. Then the last step was just to glue on my little bunny tail, which I just used a white pom-pom for. Now I could start adding my sticks to the inside of the box. So since I only used 5 of the sticks instead of 6, I decided to use 2 of the agave, 2 of the ballet slipper, and 1 of the maze. And the way that I decided to lay it out is I wanted the 2 agave sticks to be on the outside, and you can see here I glued those down first because anytime I need to add a little space in between things, I always like to work from the outside to the inside. That way I can adjust the spacing as I need to. So next I put in the ballet slipper sticks, and then last was that maze colored stick that I added to the center. The last step is just to add some hot glue to my bunny and put it in the center of the box. really love it, and it would really help out my channel if you could give this video a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already, and come follow me on Instagram at GlueLaLa. I grabbed a few items from the Dollar Tree to make a really simple Easter bunny garland. I got these wooden bunny cutouts, some of these burlap carrots, some of their white nautical rope, and some ribbon. I started by taking the bunny wooden cutouts, and even though they're a pretty nice natural wood color, I wanted mine to be a little darker, so I took some of the antique wax by Waverly and I applied that to each of the bunnies using a baby wipe. That way this eliminates one step. You can apply it and take off the excess all in one step when you're using a baby wipe. Instead of adding a traditional bow to my bunnies, I decided just to cut a piece of this black and white gingham ribbon, and I tied just a knot in the center of the ribbon, and then I dovetailed both ends, and it kind of made it look like a little bow tie for my bunnies. I hot glued my little bow ties to each of my little wooden bunnies, and this pack of bunnies came with some jute twine to string through that little hole in the top of the ear. So I did that, and then for the carrots, I just needed to tie a piece of jute twine around the top of the carrot, kind of where the carrot and the green part of the carrot meet. That way I would be able to tie it onto my nautical rope. When I use nautical rope for a garland, I always like to create a loop on the ends, and the way I do that is I always use a little scotch tape on the end of the rope to keep it from fraying, and I glue it down about I'd say 1.5 inches to create a loop, and then to finish it off so you don't really see the ends of the rope. In this case, I'm using some of that black and white gingham ribbon because it matches the bunny bows, and I just wrap that around to give it a nice finished look. To assemble my garland, I first start by laying out my roller just to give me a guide as to the spacing that I need in between the pieces that I'm going to tie on. So I started with the carrot first, and you can see here I measured out about 4 inches from the end of my loop on the end, and that's where I'm going to tie my first carrot on, and I'm just doing a simple double knot, but I did leave a little gap so that the carrot could hang down from the rope. Then once I had that in place, I added a dab of hot glue so that the jute twine wouldn't slide around on that rope. And then I moved the carrot down to the end of my roller, and at the next 4-inch mark, I tied on one of my bunnies. Now this bunny I'm tying pretty tight up against the nautical rope, so I didn't really feel the need to add any hot glue to keep it in place because I was keeping it a bit tighter. And then I just kept repeating that pattern with the carrots and the bunnies until I got the garland to the length that I liked. And then of course I finished off the other end the same way I did the first end. Thanks for hanging out in the craft room with me today. Make sure you go to the description box and check out the playlist, and go check out all the other crafters videos. And if you came here from the playlist, make sure you tell me hi in the comments. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you in the next one.